Today we'll be discussing the three Greek goddesses,
Persephone, Hera,
and Athena.
so let's go! Persephone is the queen of the underworld, goddess of spring, the death, destruction, grain, and nature. In ancient Greek mythology and religion, Persephone, also called Kor or Kora, is the daughter of Zeus, the king of the gods, and Demeter, the goddess of fertility. She became the queen of the underworld after her abduction by and marriage to her uncle Hades, the king of the underworld. The myth of her abduction, her sojourn in the underworld, and her temporary return to the surface represents her functions as the embodiment of spring and the personification of vegetation, especially grain crops which disappear into the earth when sown, sprout from the earth in spring and is harvested when fully grown.
But what was the story of her abduction? It all started when she was with a freshwater nymph beside the river, when all of a sudden a crack in the ground opened, after which Hades appeared, abducting Persephone and taking her own the underworld. The freshwater nymph that was with her whips so hard that it dissolved, becoming one with the river. When Demeter heard anything the news of her abduction, she immediately asked for help in Mount Olympus. But no one helped her, so she searched for Persephone. Below the earth and the underworld, Hades accepted Persephone to serve him as his wife and queen, but instead Persephone rebuffed his advances, refused food, and left. Wandering alone, she grew hungrier. However, she completed the pomegranates that she found. Meanwhile, Demeter continued her search. She appealed to the all-seeing sun god, Helios, who told her that he saw Zeus' betrayal and Hades' demands. After hearing this, Demeter immediately rushed back to Mount Olympus, asking Zeus to bring her daughter back, but Zeus declined.
Back in the underworld, in her ravenous hunger, Persephone ate a few seeds of the pomegranate. Through a meager amount, it was enough to ensnare her in Hades forever. Demeter wouldn't accept this. She swore that if she is not reunited with Persephone, the fields will never be fertile again. So they made a pact for 2/3 of every year Persephone wouldn't return to the land of the living, but for the remainder she would stay in the underworld. This is how she represents the embodiment of spring and winters.
Athena is an ancient Greek goddess associated with wisdom, warfare, and handicraft. Athena was regarded as the patron and protectress of various cities across Greece, particularly the city of Athens, from which most likely she received her name. The Parthenon on the Acropolis of Athens is dedicated to her. Her major symbols include owls, olive trees, snakes, and gorgonias. From her origin as the Aegean Palace goddess, Athena was closely associated with the city. She was known as Polias and Polychos, and her temples was usually located atop the central Acropolis in the central part of the city.
In Greek mythology, Athena was believed to have been born from the forehead of Zeus. In some versions of the story, Athena has no mother and is born from Zeus' forehead by parthenogenesis. In the founding myth of Athens, Athena bested Poseidon in a competition of her patronage of the city by creating the first olive tree. Athena was the patron goddess of heroic endeavors. She was believed to have been aided the heroes Perseus, Heracles, Bellerophon, and Jason, along with Aphrodite and Hera. In the later writings of the Roman poet Ovid, Athena was said to have competed against the mortal Arachne in a weaving competition, afterward transforming Arachne into the first spider. Ovid also describes how she transforms Medusa into a gorgon after witnessing her being raped by Poseidon in her temple.
In ancient Greek religion here, Hera is the goddess of marriage, women, and family, and the protector and women during childbirth. In Greek mythology, she is the queen of the world, Olympia, and Mount Olympus, the sister and wife of Zeus, and daughter of Rhea and Titan, Cronus of another defining characteristic in might is her jealous and vengeful nature in dealing with Annie who offend her, especially Zeus, Demeter's adulterous lovers and illegitimate offspring. Hera is the daughter of the youngest Titan, Cronus, and his wife and sister Rhea.
Cronus was fated to be overthrown by one of his children. To prevent this, he swallowed all of his newborn children whole until Rhea tricked him into swallowing a stone instead of her youngest child, Zeus. Zeus grew up in a secret, and when he grew up, he tricked his father into regurgitating his siblings, including Hera. Zeus then led the revolt against the Titans, banished them, and divided the dominion over the world with his brothers Poseidon and Hades.
Hera is the stepmother and enemy of Hercules. The name Hercules means glory in Hera and was Eliad. When Alcmene was about to give birth to Hercules, Zeus announced to all the gods that on that day a child by Zeus himself would pivot and rule those around him. Hera, after requesting Zeus to swear on oath to the effect, descended from Olympus to Argos and made the wife of Sthenelus, son of Perseus, give birth to Eurystheus after only 7 months, while at the same time preventing Alcmene from delivering Hercules. This resulted in the fulfillment of Zeus of it that it was Eurystheus rather than Hercules. In Pausanias, recounting Hera sent witches as the day were called by the Thebans to hinder an delivery of Hercules. The witches were successful in pretending the birth until Historis, daughter of Tiresias, threw off a trick to deceive the witches. Like Galantes, Historis announced that Alcmene had delivered her child. Having been deceived, that witches went away, allowing Alcmene to give birth.
Heracles reached adulthood. Hera drove him mad, which led him to murder his family and which later led him undertaking his famous labors. Hera assigned Heracles to labor for King Eurystheus at Mycenae. She attempted to make almost all of Heracles' 12 labors more difficult. When he caught the Lernaean Hydra, he sent a crab to bite at his feet in the hopes of distracting him. Later, Hera stirred up the Amazons against him when he was on one of his quests. When Heracles took the cattle for Geryon, he shot Hera in the right breast with a triple-barbed arrow. The wound was incurable and left her in constant pain. As beyond fell Aphrodite in the Iliad, Book 5, afterwards, Hera sent a gadfly to bite the cattle, irritate them and scatter them. Hera then sent a flood which raised the water level of the river so that Heracles could not ford the river with the cattle. He piled stones into the river to make the water shallower. When he finally reached the court of Eurystheus, the cattle were sacrificed to Hera.